Elves in space! Yeah, we're trying our hand at 40k. Can't live by bread alone, right? Yeah, the old G-dubs seem to have reformed their ways and made a rule set that actually looked kind of interesting, so I figured, you know what? I got the itch to paint something a little different, so let's go ahead and just paint all the models that I think look cool. And wouldn't you know it, that new fire prism looked awesome, so I decided, you know what, let's just make an Eldar list and see how this works out for me. And of course, we have to give the miniatures a fair shake on the battlefield. Of course, it goes with saying that usually when I do these reps, I have some working knowledge of the game, at least on a level that I can comment coherently on, but 40k is not one of those game systems. I haven't played 40k since 2003, and I'm more than just a little rusty. There's so many things that I noticed that are just changed or completely bizarre from my 2003 knowledge of 40k. So some of my observations are from the perspective of somebody familiar with other systems, but not necessarily this one. It also should note that some of the miniatures aren't painted, or they're like heavily converted and they might not look quite like what they should. I'll try to make pains to point out what they are. I hate playing with non-painted, but real life has been getting in the way. It's kind of one of the reasons why the Batrep schedule has been really sporadic. Now my first opponent is against Daniel, fielding Death Watch. You know, weren't they just a bunch of books? But now they're an army list now, apparently. So our mission is taken hold! This empty void in the Chaos Warp? I'm not sure what we're fighting over here. This was clearly an extra board that we had a little run over. The tourney had more people than I think our tournament organizer was expecting. There are objectives in the buildings that, though it's not clear from these pictures, my opponent played me pretty well in terms of how to play them, because he managed to put them all over near his side of the board or towards the middle of the board, like right here. And I'm going to have to rush across the other side of the board to take care of it. I'm not really concerned right now, because, you know, it's just a learning game. I want to make sure I get the mechanics right, and then I'll worry about winning later, which is kind of, you know, that's Sun Tzu right there. You don't go to war and then expect to win, right? Eldar gets first turn as I decide to move the retirement robots marked here towards the hovel, the ruins. We're going to try to take that center objective and hold it. They look like an assaulty kind of unit, so I figure, hey, why not? Well, we got that classic infantry shuffle here on the right side. We're going to make them run across the open, and with the Warwalkers' help, and we're going to try to take the other building. Meanwhile, he set up in such a way that he put all his units inside these Razorbacks, I think. It's going to work out well. We move the robots in there. The D-size only have like an 8-inch range. I thought they had a much larger range than that. Apparently they're like energy blades or something. I'm not sure. They couldn't shoot anything. That's what's important. Warwalkers move out. We start dealing a little bit of damage to some of their Razorbacks, while well, we end up not really doing that much damage, really. A lot of it just bounces off, and proving that these metal boxes are actually a lot more durable than you'd think. Even the fire prism manages not to do much, as the other militia back here starts holding down the back position. Beginning of his turn, he drops down the jetpack marines from reserves. They fall out of orbit, and they're going to assault my little Sunday warriors back here. These are militia dudes. I just handed them guns, said, you know what, you defend your own planet. And now they're in the back lines. I really don't expect them to do much, but we'll see. Meanwhile, he disembarks and moves forward into the ruins and just starts throwing all kinds of shade my way. By shade, I mean buckets and buckets of dice. I don't even know what the hell's going on. I really don't. He's got like some sort of specialized grenade launcher over there, which he just kind of picks what kind of weapon he's shooting, and the dice change and the statistics change with every shot. I don't know how to make of it. I mean, I just have to kind of trust him, right? I mean, that's kind of the newbie's lament, right? But a lot of the Wraith Guard starts dying, and eventually he does pick them all off. Meanwhile, the Razorbacks and other assorted Marines jumping out from the other side manages to kill one of the Warwalkers. Well, that's disappointing. So far, the Warwalkers have been really disappointing. They haven't managed to kill anything. I kind of expected them to just kind of be a fast, skirmishing mop-up force. Meanwhile, Chainsaw Marines burn out of orbit. They're too far away, I think, to actually shoot or do anything, so they charge in. Ah! It's absolutely terrifying because I'm going to lose so much, but they get to defensive fire. We manage not to kill anything, which I guess that's appropriate. They're all looking the wrong way, right? Into the gaping void. So we consolidate with everyone, including the Farseer, you know, the damsel in distress, because I figured, you know, she's just a spellcaster. What is she going to do? And they start swinging, and bonk, bonk, bonk. It just bounces off the Marine's armor. It's really nothing impressive. Terminators come out of nowhere. That should have been mentioned before. They start chewing up the Guardians that were out there in the middle of nowhere. But not to be responded kindly, the Fire Prism in his turn immediately turns around and casts his ire on those walking chunks of metal. He manages to light up, I do believe, 2 of them. And in my turn, I also managed to get off the Psychic phase, just a little out of phase because I forgot that the Psychic phase was a thing. And I go ahead and let the Farseer just kind of do her thing. I'm figuring, you know, this should be for the lulz. And bap, 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 kills 3 of them just out of nowhere. No armor roll or anything, just their minds explode. That was pretty baller. Even later in the fight phase, she'll whip out that Witchblade and just kill off the last one. No questions asked. The rest of the Guardians are just like, okay. I mean, they're a little militia. I don't expect anything out of them. They're modeled just to be a bunch of little peasants that we just handed guns, and yeah, they don't have to worry anything so long as the Farseer's right there. Meanwhile, with the bellowing sound somewhere between a Cassio and a dead whale, the Wraith Lord gets up and decides, "You killed my friends." Gets into close combat, takes a hellstorm of fire in defensive fire, weathers it all, and immediately starts taking swings, whoosh, whoosh, and a whole squad just disappears. Oh, I love the Wraith Blade. That is just so awesome. He's coming with me everywhere. I have to make the first really interesting decision of the game. Do I send my Autarch off to help those dying Dire Avengers, or do I let them guard the Warwalkers, try to get that one rerollable? I opt to send them off with the Warwalkers, which ended up being a good call because the Dire Avengers just died in mass. Speaking of dying with a braying of afraid wires, do they use wires on a Wraith Lord? Anyways, he dies to a combined fire from everything in the kitchen sink. Terminators and all kinds of other stuff doesn't have anything better to shoot at, so they vaporize all my Farseer's friends. I bet she didn't see that one coming. Having nothing to do with the Eldar superiority, he decides to go ahead and just take it metal to metal, literally, as he sends his second-in-command out there to take care of the Warwalkers with his fist. And I send the Autarch out there to show them what Eldar metal is made of. And it's not a terribly great exchange here. I mean, we start, you know, flailing at each other. He's got his armor save, and I can't seem to hurt him. The Warwalkers put a lot of damage down, but they don't... I mean, come on. Give them claws or something. The Fire Prism keeps wailing on those Terminators. It's not doing effective damage. I like all the dice it's throwing out. Even the Farseer tries to get up there to try to sizzle a few synapses, but she's just exposing herself, and that's going to end up being a problem. The fight really starts creeping down to just this exchange between his second-in-command and my Autarch as we just keep wailing on each other, but making most of our saves. The Terminators just don't die. I'm throwing high-energy physics into them, and they're just denying science. It's painful. Meanwhile, the rest of his troops have nothing better to do. They secure the objective, move forward, and they're going to make life difficult for the Farseer on the other side of the board. Statistics catch up with me as he begins throwing his weight into my Autarch, and eventually, after taking a shuriken pistol to the face, I'm sure he got angry enough and he finally murdered my captain. My warlord goes down. In return, for just the scenario's sake and scoring scenario points, I move the Fire Prism onto the other side of the board into his deployment area to get the extra point. But beyond that, it was a resounding disaster as nearly everything died. That it would be a 1-4 for the Eldar? Well, I mean, it was a learning game. There's a lot going on in the fire phase when his Death Watch started shooting at me that I just kind of only barely understand. I know he has a selectable weapons profile, but it was just a shit ton of dice. There's just so many dice. And nearly all of it bounced trying to kill the Wraith Guard. I mean, he had to send like 3 squads at it. But, what can you do? I hope to learn more. This has been an Ouchies Batrep, and thanks for watching.